Alright, so here we are. This is what you came for. The balance changes. How will the heroes operate differently this season? We're going to move quickly because some of these actually need quite a lot of time to talk about, and some of them don't. Captain America nerf. So Team Up Anchor is just slightly getting cranked, right? We're losing a 5% damage boost for Captain America. In high-level play, in pro play, Captain America receives a lot of attention. He's actually been on the end of quite a number of nerfs, but I rarely see him in my games. I don't play him, and I don't feel like he's that much of an issue. So I don't much mind. Now, we're getting a little bit of a change for Doctor Strange. It's not necessarily an explicit buff or nerf, but ultimately I feel like it's going to make him better. The Sorcerer Supreme is now casting faster, but he's trading a bit of survivability for offensive mystique. Maelstrom of Badness is going down from 8-second cooldown to 6-second cooldown, and his base health is losing 25 points. So it's going from 600 overall health to 575 overall health. Doctor Strange has always had a bit of an identity as a bit of a squishier tank, right? I know that his shield is really quite sizable. He's got, 800 health, I believe, on that shield, and that really does quite a lot to aid his survivability because he is a tank and he does need to exist on the front line for quite a while. But in terms of immediate over health or percentage damage resistance or even a defensive ultimate, etc., I feel like Doctor Strange has always been a bit squishier, and so if you're squishy, you need to have a valuable trade-off for that, right? I mean, it's not desirable to be squishy. And I think that this cooldown change is actually going to be a really big deal. This is an extremely important ability for Doctor Strange. And 8 to 6 seconds, I know that that's only a 2-second change, but 6 seconds is not a long time. Strange is now going to be really quite consistently getting this ability off more and more and more. And I feel like a big part of what made Strange so oppressive in the very first Marvel Rivals meta was that he had such immediate and borderline unavoidable kill pressure. I mean, it's pretty much a frame perfect I kill you button. So this is going to add a lot of interest to his character. Taking away health and adding damage is always a way to make a character more interactive and engaging. I'm glad to see that. Emma Frost. I play a lot of Emma Frost. She might be my most played tank. Maybe. She's definitely my most played tank this season. But I'm just going to be completely honest. I think these nerfs are deserved. She's a ridiculous character, so let's see how she's... The White Queen's control and survivability are getting a little bit less unbreakable. Increased Diamond Form cooldown from 15 to 18 seconds, and a reduced telepathic pulse energy gained when hitting shields from 10 to 5. I'm not going to lie, this is actually less of a nerf than I was expecting. I was expecting a really intense nerf to come in for her. So I'm going to address what I feel needs to be addressed first. Telepathic pulse, for her to have a shield, to be able to exist on the front line, and to have basically a stance change move that turns her into an entirely different character. She does a lot when she stands on the front line. Her primary fire does a lot of damage. But this is specifically just talking about hitting shields. Now, this is halved the gain that she gets from that. I feel like the time that I spend actively shooting shields on Emma Frost is a little bit fringe. That doesn't happen a lot for me, and they're only having it, and they're not changing the energy gain against enemy characters, right? Actually hitting another person all that much, and so that's a little bit weak. But of course, her getting her diamond form cooldown and consequently her hard CC 3 seconds less often. That's a pretty big deal. She's going to be slamming less and living less. So this is a little bit of a measured change on the side of Rivals. Hopefully they're looking to kind of still keep her strong, I think. I mean, she's not going to go from OP to useless here, but ultimately the telepathic pulse nerf was a little bit specific, and I feel like it's not going to really come up every single game. Now, I love Penny. I am a Penny fan. I'm just a few games off of getting lured with her, and this change is really exciting for me because I feel like she's been bad. I feel like all my teammates moan and groan whenever I pick Penny, and so I'm pretty happy to see this buff. So enemies caught in Penny's webs are in for a stickier situation, and her ultimate ability just got slightly more threatening. I mean, we all know that Penny ult is the least threatening ult in the game. Spider ult new effect now slows enemies hit by 8% for 2 seconds. Each hit stacks the effect and resets the slow period, stacking up to 40%. So Bucky's slow is 35% on his ability. You guys are going to see that released Saturday when I drop that video. That's not a huge slow, and it requires quite a lot of hits to stack up, but ultimately these drones kind of adding to her sort of utility as a character, right? I feel like that's going to do a lot for her overall team cooperation, and I feel like she's getting more utility as an off tank here, right? I mean, she can bring more to the team without necessarily existing specifically to stand on the front line and take a whole bunch of damage, which she can with her web stacking capabilities. And finally, reduced survival Reduce spider drone release interval during ultimate ability from 0.7 to 0.5. So she's not going to get more drones in her ult, but she can release them more quickly, which I feel like it's going to add to maybe like a surprise attack factor. A lot of the time when I ult on Penny, I'm ulting just to get the help, right? You lose a lot of your important abilities on Penny when you ult, and so the cases wherein ulting as her is actually worth it, they're a little bit few and far between. But now she's going to have a bit of surprise attack like usage, which honestly, that's exciting to add on to this character. Maybe she can be a little bit more spider-like in her gameplay. Thor buffs, thank goodness. I loved Thor when the game first came out, back when his passive generated just way too much health, and I fell in love with the character. So I'm glad that they're kind of bringing him out of the dredges of maybe being the worst tank in the game. The God of Thunder's ultimate is getting an upgrade, more speed, new stun. Greater Bring the Thunder. Increased movement speed during ultimate ability from 600 to 700. Now, everybody knows that Thor ult is one of the worst ults in the game, but they're adding kill pressure onto it. Furthermore, not only are they adding kill pressure by Thor's ability to follow you in one shot, you, after the ultimate lands, you stun for a second. So this is incredible. I feel like this is exactly the type of buff that Thor needed. He's more of a team player now, right? He's able to contribute more with his ultimate in a team fight. He sort of leans a little bit more towards Strange and Thing in the sense that they're powerful when they operate around their team. So I'm really glad to see this with Thor, and I'm definitely going to check these changes out because we'll have to see, right? How much is 600 to 700 exactly? Duelist, Black Panther, thank God. This nerf was unbelievably deserved. This is just fantastic. T'Challa's survivability after striking a marked enemy is now less kingly. So when you detonate one of the charges with Black Panther's Spirit Wren, you gain just a little bit of bonus health. That has gone down from 30 to 25. I don't really feel like that's going to do anything. Honestly, ultimately, I feel like that can reduce sort of Black Panther's survivability in the long run, which honestly, the amount of damage his character can do in the amount of time he can do it, he does not need long-range survivability. But, of course, they gave him a team-up, which will make him stronger, but we'll talk about it in a second. Blade, I'm going to keep this one quick. Ancestral Sword damage now goes from 22 to 24. 2 damage increase per slice, good for him. I mean, that's not a big deal. I'm glad they're increasing Blade's damage, though. He has quite a good bit of survivability, but his damage is weak. Now, we're going to talk about magic. Okay, so the first thing that we need to know when we're talking about the magic changes is that she has just lost her team-up anchor. So what this means is now she's losing a 15% damage boost that she had before. So, with that being said, now there's a lot of things that are going on here. So, Magic Slash, the maximum charge time, or the amount of time it takes to get to the maximum damage, has now been reduced to 1.8 seconds to 1.2 seconds. Honestly, I feel like magics do this from cover a lot, right? They kind of surprise you with it, so I don't really know if that's really going to do all that much. Magic Slash, new effect. Projectile now pierces enemies and reduces stepping disc cooldown. Oh, I didn't know that second effect. Wow. Okay, so her slash now pierces. So a good magic player could potentially hit a great number of enemies with a single cast of her sort of like Hadouken projectile that she has. Good for her. I don't know how often that's going to come up, but it does a lot of damage, so when it does come up, that's going to be a big deal. But it also reduces her cooldown of the ability that makes her invincible per enemy pierced. Wow. So she's going to have a lot more survivability in exchange for losing this team-up anchor. Oh, and she just does more damage with her auto attack. She does 10 more damage with her basic attack. Her AoE swing after the stepping disc now deals 5 more damage. Okay, that's whatever. Demon's Rage damage per hit from 18 to 20. So we're going to be seeing that little summon a little bit more often. Increase her normal sort of like ability cancel, right? The melee cancel from 30 to 40. That's a big deal. Her threshold for a combo sort of being a one-shot or being an effective finisher is now going to reduce by yet another 10 HP. And getting one shot or not getting one shot is a big threshold. That's a big deal. And so I feel like Magic players are going to be cooking it up, really looking for a few ways to generate some combos that can kill players pretty consistently. And she's overall getting more damage while she is in her ultimate. That's fine. I'm not gonna lie. I've never felt like Darkchild was all that strong of an ultimate. Makes her very vulnerable. Though it does last quite a while. There's the potential for quite a lot of damage. Moonblade now holds up to 2 charges. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Good for Moon Knight players. I feel like this is going to encourage like variety a little bit in Moon Knight, right? Which is something he desperately needs. Psylocke's burst is getting nerfed. I don't know. Psylocke is a character that takes a lot of skill, I'm not going to lie. And so I feel like people who play her have already done quite a lot of work to get her to where she is, right? But from a game design standpoint, the players that love her for her difficulty are going to continue loving her regardless of if she's super good or super weak. So I don't feel like this is going to change the Psylocke player body too much because of that sunk time. Scarlet Witch changes. Scarlet Witch has been buffed. I do feel like she needed some buffs. I don't feel like she needed a lot of buffs, but I do feel like some buffs are good for her. I have a duo that plays Scarlet Witch, and I'm particularly excited for one of these changes. Actually, it's the first one. Can now be healed by teammates during Mystic Projection. So while she is sort of Wraith Stepping or whatever Morga's ability was called in Overwatch, she can still be healed. I like to play a lot of Adam Warlock, and so a lot of the times I would sort of basically just totally whiff heals by me and my Scarlet Witch duo realizing that they're in danger at the same time, right? And so I would just totally whiff a heal. And whiffing a heal on Adam Warlock is a big deal because you only get 2 of them, right? That's really your only method of healing. So I'm glad to see that. That's really going to be I hesitate to even call that a buff. That's like a super big quality of life change. It's just a really big and really impactful one. Reality erasure damage goes from 800 to 9,999 damage. That's fine. We all know that Wanda's ult. I mean, earlier we talked about Thor ult being one of the weakest ults in the game. Wanda ult is right down there with it. There are a lot of times where I would watch Wanda players set up a really clever ult and hit an enemy Groot, and it just wouldn't even kill him, right? The Groot would just be able to straight up tank the Wanda ult. That didn't feel right, so I'm glad they're changing it into a real one-shot. Now, this is the big deal. New effect now pulls in nearby enemies within a 15-meter radius during cast charge. Max pull speed up to 2.4 meters. We're just going to have to see. I'm going to have very little say about that because I don't know how that's going to work. Is that going to trigger in the middle of dashes? Will that cancel anything? I have no idea, but she's going to be gently pulling in people as she ults. I feel like she deserves it. That ult is terrible. For Squirrel Girl, Dorian is less of a menace from afar. Burst acorn damage is being reduced by 10. Hit damage of Squirrel Blockade. Interesting, it's going from 35 to 50. Ooh. And Mammal Bond cooldown is getting... Oh, wow. The cooldown for Mammal Bond is going from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. So she's going to be much less of sort of flashy playmaker here. But I'm worried about that Squirrel Blockade damage. That's a pretty big deal. Honestly, that ability is already a really big menace anyway. Honestly, I feel like they should just give Squirrel Girl some really intense damage, fall off, and call it a day. Now, this is the change I was talking about earlier. That's a pretty big deal. Bucky is getting a handy improvement to his close quarters control. Long story short, at the end of Trooper's Fist, so he has the dash and he has the uppercut. The uppercut now grounds targets, basically, like the Thing, wherein they can't cast mobility abilities. This is going to make getting hit by that ability more of a death sentence, because now Bucky's going to be able to hit a number of shots on you in exchange for hitting the dash on you, and the hitbox is pretty big. So he's just getting some added lethality to his kit, which I'll see if I can address that in the Why I Love Bucky video. We'll see. On to the strategist. Sue Storm's control and ultimate abilities just got a little bit more fantastic. Increased the slow effect to enemies passing through Guardian Shield from 30 to 35. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that Guardian Shield slowed. Good for that, I guess. Increase invisible boundaries healing per second from 165 to 180. I couldn't kill anyone when they were in it anyway, so great. They've gone from invincible to more invincible. And new effect slows enemies within range by 20%. I didn't... Oh, wow. Okay, so invisible boundary is getting even more of a slow than it had before. The slow never felt like that bad of an effect. I mean, I'm not going to lie, walking into her ult was oftentimes a death sentence anyway. I still won't be walking into it. Jeff is getting a little bit of a change here that I think a lot of people are going to like. Now, Jeff's ultimate leaves a small healing pool behind after he casts his ult, and it heals 100 health per second, which I think is the same healing that Loki has within his immortality domain, right, with the runestone that he has. We're just giving Jeff more healing facilities, and now Jeff's ult actually has some healing uses, right, which I feel like that's going to be good. I feel like people are going to be happier to see Jeff on their team. Loki got completely gutted. I'm glad that I made the Loki video before these nerfs because he's done. This is horrible. Loki just got removed from the video game. So with Loki, his illusions now have 20% reduced effectiveness overall. His illusions have reduced effectiveness overall, right? 20% less damage and 20% less healing, and an optimal, like, sort of Loki setup is to have 2 clones out as often as possible. And so ultimately, Loki just lost like 40% of his healing and damage output. That is enormous. Don't pick Loki. He's like the new worst healer. Now, his ultimate now works for a shorter amount of time, and furthermore, you're allowed to extend it less. So Loki's ult is worse, and Loki's clones, the whole backbone of his kit, have reduced by 20% effectiveness. Don't pick Loki. Listen, we loved him, but he just got completely dumpstered. He's done for. He's the new Mantis. Luna Snow, so reduce Fate of Both Worlds ultimate ability duration from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. I'm not gonna lie, it's still a long time, right? It still lasts even longer than Invisible Woman ult, I'm pretty sure. Whatever. You know, I mean, she's so invincible during that time that if you exercise even a little bit of, like, positional awareness, you're gonna live anyway, it doesn't matter. Mantis changes. Movement speed from nature's favor now decays to 0 over 2 seconds after being hit instead of instantly disappearing. Interesting. Okay, I see. I didn't know that. So Mantis has always had, right, I mean, she has enough CC, she has enough mobility, and she has enough damage to operate independently as a support, and I feel like that's a big part of the draw of her character. And now she's gonna, furthermore, be sort of difficult to pin down. Organized tactics work a little bit less against her, so good for Mantis players. They needed a buff, and this is an interesting one that will hopefully increase the depth of the character. And finally, Ultron's ultimate ability now deals extra pain. No defense is too strong for the AI Overlord. Ultimate ability new effect deals 125% damage to bonus health. That's interesting. So Ultron basically, like, gets an overhealth shred ability. Like, this gives his ultimate more reactive capability, right? I mean, you hear a Penny ult, or perhaps you see the Thing use his dash, right? Now your job, your capability, something that you are disproportionately good at doing, is shredding that health away. So good for Ultron players. I feel like he's really simple, right? He's pretty one-dimensional. And so I feel like giving him some utility will do a lot for how many people play him, right? I feel like he'll be more interesting of a character, and that'll make more people play him. Let me know if you guys want me to talk about the team-ups later. This is already really long as a video. I'm going to have to make quite a few cuts because there are some characters that I really like to just sit there and yap about. I have the team-ups open here and available right now, but let me know if you guys want me to talk about them. We'll see how we feel about that. Team-ups don't come up all that often anyway. Most people come into solo queue, just insta-lock whoever they're going to play and stick to it until they lose. So we'll see. Ultimately, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed sort of ASMR of me reading out the patch notes to you. I look forward to the next video, and don't forget to check out Why I Love videos being released on Saturdays. They're the highest quality videos, and I put a lot of effort and time into them. Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.